exclusive to you. Here somebody kept calling, where it is, when I put it in my pocket. But these boards, I got two people. I don't know, Jeremy Baker for tourism board, exclusive coffee, and John, what's that? Jerome John for zone, planning zone. Okay. So, excuse me, there it is.
Good. Hey. We're live.
You said you need them.
Yeah,
You need them.
yeah, you sure do.
I'm having to pass. They time come for board.
I know
Yeah,
you.
I noticed that. All of a sudden, people, it's like, a lot of people do some interesting things.
Okay, I know we are one commissioner short yet, but we will go ahead and begin this session that was recessed from the earlier part of June, call this meeting to order. At this time, I'd like to ask Commissioner Reverend B.J. Gibson if he would lead us in prayer.
I will. Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners, if I'm in order, before I pray, I want to ask for a moment of silence. We had a 9-year-old student to drown on Saturday at Seven Lakes. He's a student at South Johnson and will be funeralized on Saturday. Jaynard Fairley is his name, Jaynard Fairley. So who will, let's call for a moment of silence for him. May we pray. Our God and our Creator, we say thank you for this day, for the moment that you have given to us. We say thank you, for we recognize that this moment is the only moment that we have. And we pray that in this time that you will lead and guide us as commissioners, so that whatever we do and say today will be done in the best interest of the citizens of the county that we are blessed to serve. We ask for your guidance, for your direction, and for your leadership. And we do lift up the Fairley family, that you would comfort their hearts, and the students and staff of South Johnson and all of those affected in our community by this tragic loss. We are so grateful to you because of your faithfulness to us, and we ask your continued blessings on our county. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner Gibson. We have in front of you a consent agenda. You have received some of the information on this in your agenda packet. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Ivey, a second by Commissioner Gibson. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. Next on the agenda, Scotland County Free Clinic. I was contacted by their director, Ginger Cousins. I think she also had made some attempts and may have talked to a couple of other commissioners. She was really asking on the meeting November 1st, this board of commissioners approved $150,000 from the American Rescue Plan funds to help them with their budget for the year 21-22. Ms. Cousins was really asking if we had made any decision in regard to her request for some money from the coming year's budget. She wasn't sure whether we had made that decision on November 1st or not. I went back and pulled both the minutes and actually viewed the meeting that day. And she did mention that she would like to be considered for that, but this board took no action. I believe that our arrangement with them is that we have allocated $150,000 to their agency, but they are earning that on a per patient, per visit basis. And I'd ask the manager if he would find out from us how much of that 150 they have already earned. And I think until we get that information, we would probably be better served to wait and make that decision on that request, even if it happens after the first of the fiscal year.
And with that, we do that analysis on a quarterly basis. We go in as part of the oversight that we do on the ARP funds. So with that going in, we'll go in after June 30th and get that final number. because it was designed so hopefully they would have the opportunity to get their full spend rate through June 30th. And I'll have that final information to you by the July 11th board meeting.
Okay, thanks, sir. And also in regard to that, Ms. Cousins sent me a request yesterday, mid-afternoon, and I did not see that until this morning, and I have forwarded that to each of the commissioners this morning. Item number 4.
Mr. Chairman, before you do that, can I don't know if we need to just by consent or what, maybe say, let's move item 5 in front of number 4, because I think some folks are here for that, and instead of having them sit here and suffer through number 4, waiting on number 5, let's get that out of the way.
I don't have any problem with that. Is any commissioner have any issue with that? If not, we'll go to item number 5. Okay? Actually, and I apologize for backing up. Well, I will take up that later. Let's go ahead with this. Boards and commission appointments. John Alford, do you have any? We have the information in front of us, and for commissioners, we all have seen or have had access to the applications from a number of individuals for each of these boards. Some of us may have some other information because of letters we've received or phone calls we may have received. So I'll ask first, I guess, go to Commissioner Alford as far as any recommendations on the first.
I have two people here that have not filled out an application. I have another gentleman supposed to have been bringing in an application. I don't know if he brought it. Jason, nobody bring it up? Oh.
Nobody brought me an application.
Well, I would like to hold off on this to, hold on to our next meeting.
Jason, have none of these people that's on the agenda applied?
They have,
All of these?
all
haven't
these
applied?
people I have applications for.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
For these, and I have others. And if you don't have to do it today, I will,
Which board are you talking about?
all of them,
Both
the
boards?
2 boards.
Oh,
You have anticipated applicants, you're saying?
Well, I just received 2.
well, they're on there.
They're
Yeah.
already all but one. I don't think that
Right.
John person's on this.
He
Yeah.
he is, and he's sitting behind you.
Yes, it is.
Okay, who's already got a board?
Well, I just looked at this, I'm not.
Gibson and. The planning and zoning board, the 2 current people that are on the planning and zoning board are Brian Gibson and John McLean. The 4 individuals on the Transportation Development Authority or TDA board, they are Glenn Batten, Jennifer McCrae, Ron Riggins, and Dan Smith. Those are the 4. One of those is a restricted appointment. It has to be someone in the hospitality industry. And meaning, from what Corey has told me, meaning that they either own or manage a hotel.
And who is that now?
Ron Riggins.
In other words, I've just looked at this, so I'm not. Do
Is
we have to do
everybody
it now?
that's time sensitive that it has to
By
be?
the time I get to it, I'll be ready, but I just haven't
They serve until they're replaced.
had any time to look at it.
What did you say?
I said, it's not really time sensitive in that they, whoever is on the board currently, by statute, serve until their replacement is qualified or they're reappointed or whatever, which means their replacement being qualified means that they have taken the oath to do that. So the only one that would need to be done today is the Transportation Advisory Committee, and that's elected official.
Okay, just, John Alford, is there anybody who has expressed an interest that you do not have an application on, that you know of?
Yes,
Okay, there's,
I just won, and that won't be a problem.
well, but you are not necessary, but it is not unusual for you to make recommendations, and do I hear from you that you're not ready to do that today?
That's right, I just would like to wait. I have not had a chance to look at names again, and I like to do it at our regular meeting.
Okay, so that is your recommendation?
That's my recommendation, with only with the one exception.
Stress.
Okay, so
Transportation.
is there any commissioners who have an objection to us postponing this to the July 11th session
For those two boards.
for those two boards? And for those of you who are here for that purpose, I apologize for us not making that decision today. But I'd rather us have a recommendation from our vice chairman in order to do that.
Yes, I just haven't had a chance today to look at this information. I have no problem with anyone who have expressed an interest. As a matter of fact, we have more than enough boards to accommodate folks.
Well, and it's good to have you, I don't know the two individuals, I know Loretta, I don't know Mr. John, but I think it's great to have your applications, and we will look forward to you serving in at least one capacity, if not more than one. 'Cause I know we've had, one of you at least has made applications for more than one board. Mr. John, we appreciate that. Y'all are welcome to stay with us. We're gonna move on to the transportation board.
Okay.
Do we have what we're looking for is an alternate to that? I think Mr. Ivy is our representative of that board.
Yep. He is,
My reappointment, right?
yeah, your reappointment.
Or a replacement.
There could be that. I mean, it's, the municipalities met last Thursday to present their recommendations for their appointments. City of Laurinburg was the only one who attended that meeting, and they recommended Ms. Adams be reappointed as member and Ms. Rosemary Rayner be the alternate. And I don't know that you all have an alternate right now. Okay.
Well, that's who's on the roll is.
Okay, well, if, then both y'all can be, and both y'all are eligible to be reappointed. And are,
I'll do it. I mean, I'm the vice chair now anyway, but I mean, they can always elect somebody else.
And I would gladly give up my position as alternate, but I don't. If there's somebody eager to take that position.
Or we can swap, and I can.
That's a bad play. I was that representative for a short while, and if
I still haven't learned all the acronyms, so.
right, I mean, I told you, well, I mean, I was talking to him this week. Do we have a motion to appoint?
I make a motion that we appoint Tim to the Transportation Advisory Board and that we appoint Chairman Gibson as the alternate.
I second that motion.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Unanimous. I wanted to do it, but okay.
You need to appoint the municipal members also.
Okay.
I make a motion to appoint Mary Jo Adams and alternate Rosemary Rayner.
I said,
I do have a question. Did they send that over to us, or did we pick that? How did we
They
get
sent
that?
There's a meeting, all the municipalities are invited to make the recommendation. City of Laurinburg was the only people who was the only board that showed up.
Gotcha.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Thank you very much. I'm gonna go back to the free clinic for just a minute. Oh, in some of our information, we saw, Kevin, the list of those funds that have been allocated from the American Rescue Plan.
Mhm.
Was the free clinic one of those?
Yes.
Was it? Okay.
yes.
But he just listed the total, right? I mean,
Yes.
He didn't break it down.
Okay.
How much is it?
It was $150,000.
And what they want now?
They want to be considered for
Recurring funds for next year.
recurring funds for next year. But we're not sure whether they've earned all of the 150 that we've allocated for the past year.
I think we should look very close at that, even though, we always want to do everything for the health of the county.
Have you seen the letter yet?
No, I haven't. I think I had it here. This is right here.
No, ma'am, she sent it to me yesterday afternoon and I forwarded it to everybody this morning.
There's a
And I didn't
copy.
print it out. I printed it
Oh, I'm
out.
sorry, I'm sorry.
I can't pick it up.
There is a
Oh,
copy.
wait, there is a
Yeah,
copy.
there is a copy.
Okay.
Thank you, Jason, I did not know that.
I want to ask Kevin a quick question before we go any further. I know ARP funds are not on our agenda, but can we get a balance of the money that's left from what we have appropriated and allocated?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I need
It's
to
still
know.
on that drive, right?
Yes, it's still on the drive. It's
Okay.
not,
And I know what we've appropriated, I know what we've allocated, but I'm not quite sure what the balance is.
Apologize, I thought I had turned this thing off. Budget, Mr. Patterson?
okay. With the budget, there have, going with the budget for the general fund, there have been a few been minor tweaks, but they've all been inside of the detail. So there's no significant change to the overall budget. As far as departmental totals since last presented, we do have a copy of the budget ordinance breaking it down for in total. So going back now, through county purposes, the budget is $36.7 million, not including education. Education is an additional $13.8 million. That includes, payment to RCC is included in the 37. This does include the continuation of $13.8 million to the public school system. That is the only thing that has changed from the current year to next year is the debt service payment was modified to reflect the actual debt service payment coming out. So I think that total change is about $10,000 because of interest is going to be slightly less next year. But
To ask you a question, since we don't pay for all these schools that we did 10 years ago, all those kind of things, what debt service do we have, basically? I know we got the school, but what other debt service?
Our other debt service in the general fund is primarily this building. Because we spent about $2.5 million, just $2.3 million on this building, on the renovation. So that was part of the 2017 debt issuance. And also we have still debt on the utility program that we did around 8 years ago, where we went through and upgraded HVAC and lights in about 4 buildings. But the total debt service for the general fund, not inclusive of the schools, is $297,810. So just under $300,000.
Not bad compared to what we have had.
We are, if you looking at this information from debt capacity, we are still, even with the school debt, we are still well under our total debt capacity. There is a legal limit of how much debt we can issue. But that legal limit is obscene in my mind. But we are we are not heavily leveraged, considering where we are in our debt capacity.
That's good to know. It really is good to know.
With this, the bonds for the school, that's a 20-year note. Is it
Yes,
20? Now, the other ones, they're much less or close to that.
The energy, the bond for this building is the same as the schools.
Right.
The energy savings contract, I cannot remember if that was a 12 or 15 year.
When I say again, how we got to $13,883 the school fund. I know how much we're gonna give them, how much we allot for them, or what is all that?
That includes $10 million for current operations, $300,000 for capital,
Okay,
and then a total of just under 3.6 million for debt service.
okay,
Now, the debt service is being paid for out of restricted revenues.
okay,
Is either restricted revenues or the schools makes a payment back to us for the difference in the restricted revenues and the debt service annually.
okay. All right, thank you.
And I'll, Ms. Patterson, I'm not sure exactly when in this presentation you want us to have this conversation, but the liaison committee met a week ago, and the liaison committee has not come to an agreement on what to recommend to the two boards. And the liaison committee did ask that at this meeting that the commissioners on the liaison committee make known to the other commissioners who weren't present, perhaps some of the reasons that they are asking for 10 million current expense and $600,000 in capital expenditures. So we would like an opportunity to do that at the time that it is most appropriate in your presentation.
With that, I was just hitting some highlights on this. The other funds were no significant change. There were the fee schedule changes that were mentioned at the public hearing, but there are no change. Those have not been modified since. So I'll be happy to go into as much detail on the budget or just leave it in your laps.
Well, usually you have a point when you're going through this, and that usually happens somewhere close to the end.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to interrupt you.
Right.
If that's what you were trying to accomplish at this point.
Right. Well, the other thing I do want to go off and put in here, because going through the $50 million or $50.6 million budget does not include $3.4 million in solid waste. We have $2 million in the water funds combined. And then there are another $1.6 million in the fire districts. Those are funds that you do have control over. A lot of them are restricted. You cannot shift monies between those funds, or not easily, but those are funds that are under your control. So with that, the total budget is larger, but there are other funds such as 911 funds. Those are primarily for the phone bill for our 911 center. Those are state funds, or actually the 60-cent surtax that are paid on every phone bill comes back through the state to us. Tourism Development Authority is on here also because it is a component unit of Scotland County.
The ARP funds are a separate budget, is that correct?
Yes, they are a special revenue fund. And that's already been established, so it can continue. With this, the most important aspect of this, I did, project ordinance, the budget ordinance was set up to establish a 99-cent tax rate. The fire tax is unchanged at 5 cents. And it does put in the 4% cost of living adjustment. And it does change the salary progression plan from a 2.5% every other year to a 1.25% increase on the anniversary. There is still a requirement that the employee cannot be under disciplinary action. And then, of course, we do have all of the fee schedules to be attached going forward. They're all attached and should be they are in the drive as well. And of course, then we have the authorizations of the finance officer to make adjustments inside of the budget during the year.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, you raised your hand first.
I have a question. I did not see, have not read anywhere where we're appropriating any money to the fund balance.
You, in the budget, you do not budget to add to fund balance.
Oh, okay.
You budget to use fund balance.
How do you do it then?
You just don't spend everything.
Okay.
Well, that's kind of what we did in that budget adjustment and carryover in the consent agenda, right?
Yes.
Some of that would go into the fund balance.
Correct, because those are projects that are not going to be completed by June 30th, but they are going to be completed. So
They'll sit in the fund balance
until next year, yes. Now with this, I think this year we're expected to add to fund balance, but the appropriated fund balance, the amount according to the budget, we expected to spend $1.6 million of fund balance this year. The appropriated fund balance to make everything balanced for next year is $1.9 million. So I am not saying that I am definitely not saying we're going to add to fund balance next year. I would think that we will wind up using it. I'm trying to get tighter on that revenue projections, but most of the time, like I say, the goal is for our revenue projections. Overall, I want to hit at 97% of our revenue collections in total. Sales tax and property taxes will be higher than that, but the state revenues, a lot of that is if you don't spend it, you don't get it. So those will be lower. So I'm looking for a 97% blended revenue collection rate, but a 94% spend rate. So that's where we come in with the appropriated fund balance, but still able to generate fund balance in an average year, which would allow for larger projects coming forward.
Kevin, I want to address the potential. Carol, you know what I mentioned you about, I don't know what that much about it, but I got this call about this person wanting us to take a look at the insurance, the health insurance and the increase that's going to hit the people in our county work for us. And so with the increase that we give them, the yearly increase that we give them, the person was saying it's going to be eaten up by the increase in the insurance. So you speak on that just a minute. I don't want to take a lot of time on it. I left the information home, I'm sorry, on my phone, but can you speak to that?
Before he does it, I want to read, I got a message, maybe the same way, I'm not sure.
Is this the email we received from someone named that works at DSF?
That's who I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to share it if you don't mind. I'm extremely concerned about the proposed budget. We received an email indicating medical insurance is going up by 7%. and dental by 4%, which will be an 11% increase to employees. With only a proposed 4% cost of living adjustment, there's absolutely no benefit to the employees. It's so sad that employees are afraid to speak up and speak out for fear of retaliation. Many employees say they do not go to the doctor because they cannot afford it. It's no cost up front, but they may get a $200 medical statement in the mail depending on the service they receive. God forbid an employee having to carry a spouse, children, or both on their HDHP. They really can't afford it and feel the county did not have them in mind when they selected this HDHP. The health department staff spoke a few months back about the insurance and pay, but it fell on deaf ears. Employees feel they have absolutely no one advocating for them, so they vent each other and pray things will get better. Again, please consider that with inflation soaring through the roof, insurance going up by 11%, what will the employees see with a 4% cost of living adjustment? Absolutely nothing. Thank you for your time and hope you all fight with employees in mind.
Thank you,
Is that what you were saying?
Commissioner Gibson, for reading that, because it was on my phone. I was gonna read it today.
Yes,
Thank you.
That is what you were saying.
That's exactly.
I got the same message.
With that,
Well, let me say one thing about that, because, and I got the call, but I didn't get the text. When you're looking at that 11%, when they're talking about that 11%, because my first comment to that was, you're not comparing apples to oranges, you're talking about an 11% increase in the rate combined, or 7% on the health. You're not talking about a 7% increase of your salary to that. So I think in this case, in looking at the difference this year, I think it's going to be, it's 7% of the premium increase difference,
Would be
not 7%.
Would be on the $500
or the
Total.
$94 or whatever the
Yeah.
case is. It's not on the whole
Not
salary.
on your
Yeah, it's
salary.
not on their salary. So you can't think of it that way. It's not, so they're not increasing their salary cost by 7%.
Maybe we need to communicate that back to this person, help them understand that 7% is not as great as you might think when you
Right,
look
right.
at this, that the 4% is your total.
I mean, I think
salary,
it's going up
which
with
may be,
anybody,
you know,
but,
several,
I mean,
50,000, you know.
Right.
4% of that is much more than the 7% on your insurance.
right, if the 7%, if the premiums, and I'm making these numbers up, but if it's going up $50, and I don't know, you may know the number, but what is the number on that PPO plan this month?
Well, the PPO plan, if you recall, we are incrementally increasing the percentage of the variance.
Right.
So I don't know if this individual is on a PPO plan,
Yes,
but I know that's where I get the most complaints, is that we have been here the longest, why are we being penalized? That's pretty much the feeling that we get.
right,
But the PPO is like a stagnant pool. There's no one going in that pool. So the increase is an overall increase. They don't say this percentage for the PPO and this percentage for a high deductible health plan. It's an overall. But what we've done is, just because of the difference, the board has approved to say, okay, the ones that elect to stay on the PPO have to pay a portion now. We called it a buy-up plan. So I think that's where most of the information is. But for the people that are on the high deductible health plan, if they're an employee on the insurance, they're not seeing any of the increase. That's the county cost. That's
no,
the
but what's the
one point.
difference this year for the PPO?
We changed from a 35% of the variance to a 45% of the variance.
Well, how much does that cost?
It went from about $66 to $94.80.
And that's what the employee will pay.
That's the employees, the
Yes,
employees.
those employees, but we're about,
It's a small number.
the percentage of employees still on the PPO plan is getting smaller and smaller.
Naturally, because
Mhm.
that's,
Nobody's coming in, everybody's kind of coming out of it.
But if that employee,
Because all new employees are going into
In
the
the
high
H.
deductible.
and I'm
Yes.
just making this number up, but if that employee's making $50,000 a year and got a 4% increase, that's $2,000 this year. You ain't gonna pay $30 more, and I'm making it up, but I mean, I guess they need to put it in perspective as to what the.
The 7% increase in the health insurance and the 4% increase in dental are two separate items. They're not added together to be 11%.
Right.
No,
And
it
also-
doesn't come out to be 11%.
And also with the dental increase, the dental insurance, this is the first time in about 5 years we've had any
Mhm.
premium changes in our dental. And of the 4% change, the county is,
It's a cost
Taking-
share,
yeah,
So they're not-
we're absorbing half that cost.
right?
Well, can you all explain this to the people, cause they're talking about the deductibles and all of that, and, it's bothersome.
First thing I
They're
think
not
we
getting
need,
the best healthcare,
I think the first thing we need to do is change the name of that second plan. Not the PPO plan, but the other plan, and quit calling it the high deductible.
Yeah, that would, yeah, first I hit your face first.
Is that right? I mean,
And then I think this is gonna be what it's gonna be. But I think in the message I just read, and I've gotten, right now, the high deductible is a bunch of malarkey when you have to hit the deductible. So people said so it's not that one employee, it's a number of employees. So for me, I think morale is more important than anything. And I know email is convenient, but sometimes emails don't convey the message in the right way. And I think it would help. And I don't think our directors are able to adequately, because they have to go and say, Susan and Kevin said, if that makes sense. They can't really answer questions. And I know it's a lot to meet with people, but I really think it would help if you, Mr. Chairman, Miss Susan and Kevin would meet maybe with each department to try to, because it is the one I read is the last message I got. I've got 4 or 5 that are backdated, you know what I mean? But I think putting people in a room, hearing their concerns, and then you all sharing where we stand will go across much easier or much better than, and we can't convey it as well as they can, but they feel threatened to come as one person and say, well, Miss Susan, this is my concern, if that makes sense. And I think morale is important. I think we can say what we want to say, but their perception is reality.
How is this communicated currently? I mean, is there a meeting with the actual employees? Group meetings?
We've not had in-person group meetings for the last 2 years.
Since COVID.
And now we will probably start those back up in November. Is that where
The
our
only reason we
group
chose not to this time is because there was not a change in coverage.
Right.
Normally, a change in coverage, we would have more extensive explanation. Because the plans did not change, just the numbers changed for the PPO. And of course, the premiums did. So we chose not to have full, because that takes about 2 full days. We said we don't have a plan change because we are geared towards shopping this out next year. So we will definitely have open enrollment meetings next year. So I can contact the departments, get involved in their departmental meetings, and if they can give me a few minutes, I'll be glad to be open for questions.
Let me ask this
I'm
question.
as much or more concerned, I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
My question is retaliation. That's a very serious charge for a person to say that the employees are not coming forward because they feel retaliation. Do you think that comment is justified, or why would that be said? Retaliation if someone speaks up.
I think a number of the department heads will tell you that they're happy to complain about health insurance. So I know they're not going to retaliate against an employee saying that they
Could
don't
we
like
not
health
then
insurance.
talk with this employee and just see where they're coming from? That statement is made and it's serious, and I just think it's.
And we don't want to feel threatened or nothing.
Yeah, we don't want our employee to feel threatened to
And
ask
I
this
wonder
question.
if it may be this, is that we have asked department heads to have channel their questions through their HR contacts. And I don't know if they're getting that as an impression that they cannot call the HR office, but we try because it might be 15 people have the same question. When I can answer that one question, they can disseminate it. I'm wondering if they feel like, well, if they're going over somebody's head if they call HR.
Yeah, so we need to address that and see if we can.
I agree, Commissioner Alford. The only issue I have or concern is not that one person. And I don't know what they mean by that because I don't ask.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I don't know who this person is. It's a number I don't know. And said it's not just that one person. We all fear retaliation. So I don't know. But I do think it's something that we need to address. But I think when you all meet, and I hate to put that on you, but I think our chairman needs to be there to hear it for himself, and so that they know that we are concerned. I mean, it wouldn't be, I don't think, justified for all of us to show up, but as chair, I mean, I just want us to be able to work on beyond that. I think morale is an issue, and we don't know why, but I think we need to figure out why, so that, and that may not be all staff, but it's a number of staff.
And one thing our employees need to be told, and we need to help them understand that the medical profession in this nation is demanding a lot of money for their services,
Oh, certainly.
and we're not the only one that's paying it and feeling it. I switched over in the middle of the year from my deductibles. The plan I was in was just soaking me for deductibles. I mean, it was just
That's a
more
good
than I'm
point.
willing to pay, so I just switched in the middle of the year.
Yeah.
And so I feel the frustration, but this is happening out of Washington DC. They won't do anything, and so insurance companies are getting heavily paid.
But the
One
cost
of my
care
biggest
is-
concerns with this is, and if we're shopping it out for next year, and I hope we're already doing that now because it may take that long, is the family cost, the spouse and the children is extremely
Yeah,
high.
it is.
And you look at a family cost of $1,300 in one case, or even $900 a month in another case, that's a lot of money.
But if you look at counties and cities have two separate, different demographics.
Mhm.
And a lot of these people are compared, well, so-and-so works at such and such a plant. We can't compare with those because they're bigger employers. We're less than 500.
Oh, I know.
So,
I know, but
a
I'm just
lot
saying that
of,
that's.
you know, it's their frame of reference is where it's
understand.
coming from. And they say, why is ours so high?
Yeah.
Well, if you look at counties, that's not out of the ordinary, but they may be comparing it with so-and-so who works at this employer as opposed to the type of employer.
No, I'm saying if there's something we can do in that area, like.
And give more options if we can,
Right, yeah, I'm just.
as we shop it, shop out.
I'm not gonna say we come up with the magic solution when we shop,
You know,
Um,
I don't,
but I think maybe they might have, I just want to avoid thinking, okay, it's gonna get better and it's gonna be less expensive. That might not be
Leave the
so,
reality.
It's not.
but it might.
It may or may not.
It may or may not.
It's not.
I think
It's
historically,
not gonna get cheaper.
the numbers have done nothing but go up.
They've gone up every year for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I want to just reflect on what John said, because when I read the email, and I knew that it had been very carefully worded, and I obviously picked up on the word retaliation, and that's so subjective for us to get that and then try to address.
Yeah.
But my first thought was, we don't have any control over this. The insurance industry is driving this, not 7 members of the Board of Commissioners. We're only responding to what's happening in the
We're paying the
insurance
same
industry.
high prices.
Yes.
And so
Right.
I think it would serve our county employees to somehow say that and not do it it's not our fault, but just help bring them along to the education of what insurance is about now in this, everywhere. I've certainly learned that in the last 12 years that I've been sitting here. It's pretty amazing.
It is.
And when all you see is that, you're not worried, you're not thinking about anything else. But this is almost out of our control. I mean, it's one of the few things that we don't control a lot, and this is one of them.
Well, I don't disagree with that at all, Carol. I think the numbers are are certainly something we have very little control over. But I think how we communicate it
Yeah.
is something that we need to think about and maybe do a better job
We just
of.
gotta be sensitive to the employees' concerns and to the information they have. Yeah.
And I'm not opposed to the suggestion that the chairman is part of this conversation. But I'm also more than willing to invite other commission members to be a part of that. I think that there's others who, it doesn't need to be just the chair, it can be.
I saw that coming.
Well, you know it's coming. But I think there's a lot of good communicators on this board, and having two commissioners there, I think is better than having just the chairman. So I will be calling on those of you to partake in that as well. I don't know what exactly we're talking about here, but I don't think we want to wait until November to start having these conversations.
What I'll do is just try to schedule, it'll be kind of post-open enrollment meetings just to explain the health plan. Because one thing I would like the employees to know is that with the high deductible health plan, the county is giving them $1,000 free money each year. And I think that gets kind of lost in all of the negativity. And they can even put money in using pre-tax dollars, which lowers their tax liability to help bump that up. But I also know, and I've dealt with employees in tiers, when they come in and they're fairly new employees, they haven't had a time to build up that HSA account yet, and they have a very expensive medication they're taking that the $1,000 divided by 12 is not even going to touch. So I've heard these things as well.
You mean the county health?
The county health plan.
And I can tell you this,
Instead, okay, we'll change it.
I just want to say this right quick. Xarelto, or blood thinner, most of you are familiar with it. You can get it for 30 days for $15 up to $1,500 that the drugstore will charge you for. So if you don't know that, you could be paying anything between $15 and $1,500 a month for that one medication out of your pocket.
Well, you
So,
need to know
so
your
the
drugs very
rip-offs,
well.
the drugstores, many of them rip you off.
That's right.
I didn't know this until a person did it for me, and I was paying $150 out of my pocket, but I could have gotten it for $15, or somebody could have charged me $1,500.
Is the difference between generic or the regular?
No, this is Xarelto.
There's no generic, it's no generic, right?
They don't make.
No, there's one supposed to be out this year that will take it down substantially. The company, Sunset has come this year for the Xarelto. They're not protected anymore.
And then they'll tweak it enough to get it.
The one other thing that I don't think that we talked about is this concept of retaliation. And it's hard to respond to a correspondence like that without the person. If you ask this person, can you explain a little more to me about what you're meaning by retaliation, without that person feeling threatened by you asking that question?
Because we can fix that.
Well,
that's
May or may not be able to fix that, but we need,
But we can address it.
we can address it.
Yeah.
Well, we
So-
can
As
fix
long as we
it.
can fix it or not.
But it seems to me, Mr. Gibson, that you have read that, and you read it publicly. I would ask that you think about corresponding with this person and asking for a private conversation for her to just,
So let me share this. I'm not the only one who received that.
okay.
I know Commissioner
You-
goes to.
Did we all receive the same thing?
What I just read,
Yeah.
I didn't
know
get
I
it
did.
in text version, I got it in a call version, but
I
I think
missed
it's
the
the
call,
same
so I got a
person.
text.
Yeah, and I missed the call too, but I don't have a text.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we all got the same thing, because I'm hearing text, I'm hearing a telephone
I
call.
got a telephone call, but I asked for a text, because I couldn't remember all the stuff she was saying.
Let me see if I can find it. I got an email. Hold on a minute.
But I got it from that person that we all got it from, but also from another person. And I just didn't respond to the retaliation part. My response was, I'll bring it up in our meeting so we can deal with it. But I will go back and ask if we can have a conversation with both of those individuals who said that word of retaliation to get clarity. I don't know.
And if you do that, you handle it however you see is best. If you want to include someone else,
I will include you if you're willing.
well, if I'm willing,
And
just,
they're comfortable.
but that, you let that person decide whether they want that person, who else they want there.
But how many departments are there? I guess I should know that automatic in the county.
That's how you
Departments,
break it up, right?
Yeah, how many
approximately
departments?
15.
I'll probably just schedule meetings on dates and do different sessions.
Yeah,
Like I usually do the open enrollment meetings.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll do that.
well, could they be there then? Because there's a lot on our chairman to try to go to all these apartments. He got a lot of other things to do.
That's why I'm saying I would go ahead and schedule them on certain dates and have maybe 2 or 3 sessions.
That's why I'm gonna.
He need to go to the beach. This is summertime. No, I'm here retiring. I'm kind of.
Now, I mean for everybody to come to this Wilson, not just certain departments.
Yeah.
It'll just be
Okay.
open, so
Yeah.
you're not doing individual departments, it's open
Right.
meetings.
We're not gonna put that on our.
Was your message
Well,
signed by
the
somebody?
chairman tends to share that with other members. of
Mine
the
was.
board, I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
Especially the ones
Yeah.
retiring, right?
Right?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I share
one that retired.
I know this person and I can call her up and talk to her tomorrow.
We'll share and see if it's the same
Yeah,
person.
because
Y'all
my
talk-
email.
y'all talk about that and decide how to,
Yeah.
and maybe.
Don't say her name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a concern.
Yeah,
let's- We can move forward.
Yeah, let's, probably, any
Thank
other
you,
conversation
Mr.
on this probably needs to be
Thank you.
not like so.
Now, with
Well,
that,
going back to the budget, 99 cents is what you're basing
Yes.
this year's budget
Thank you.
on. What is a penny development on our?
right at 250,000.
So somewhere we're cutting $250,000.
We have, well, with that, total operations, operational spending, is going down with this. There is an increase in salaries, but we do have increases in sales tax and increase in property tax.
That will cover that.
That's allowing for that growth.
But I want to say, Kelvin, thank you. And we didn't even have to fight, all of the point. You went out and did it. Thank
I
you.
can make it $1 if y'all want to argue.
No. You fine.
Well, since you're in such a good mood, how about 98?
Oh, God.
You're all gonna walk around and slap you in the back of the head.
Probably, if you say something about that time, that's it.
Well, we're coming up on a recession,
Mhm.
We are.
and do we
When do
wanna
you
make
think it'll
that
come, Tim?
change? Huh?
When do you think we'll get it? January,
By the end of the year.
end of the year, yeah.
Do we wanna make that change and then have to make a drastic backwards turn next year?
We have to make that change.
We won't have to because the growth we have is going to still be here next year.
Okay, I'm just,
I think-
believe me, I'm the last one that you thought you would hear that from.
Well, the question I was gonna ask-
I see where you're coming from.
And you've heard me say this in this meeting before, is I don't want to go down a penny and have to go up
2 pennies.
2 pennies the next year.
I'd love to come down 2 this year, but I also don't want to turn around next year and have to go up 3 because something happens.
So the question, Mr. Patterson, is how comfortable are you that we can maintain that rate for,
With an 8% reduction next year.
Say that.
I'm just throwing it, just,
We said 8% reduction.
just as a number, so you gotta have something to work with.
I'm just saying the property taxes that are owed, that we're receiving, the revenue we're receiving
But
now.
I'm saying that they pay them next year,
If we wind up with a 7 to 10% reduction next year, it's going to be painful. But with a 99-cent tax rate, because of the growth we've had and where we are, we can sustain the 99-cent tax rate for a
for a year anyway.
for a 1-year recession.
Now, you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now, believe me, I'm the last one you thought you'd hear that from, right? But
I guess my statement, my thinking is, the areas that we receive our revenue from, a recession is not gonna necessarily affect that much, is it?
The
Sales tax.
Sales tax, and it could affect property tax because, that conversation that I know one day we're gonna get in here probably real soon about a reevaluation. I think we ought to leave that alone for now, by the way, because we might not like to answer that if we go into a recession in the middle of a reevaluation. the values go down to that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But we could end up with a reevaluation and the values go down because of.
We don't need to do that now. I thank you for bringing that up.
But they can't go down.
How far have we
They have to
gone?
go up.
They can't, no, they can go down.
Okay, let's stay on this, let's stay on this
Well,
year's
the state is
budget,
saying they're
folks. Stay on this year's budget. Any other comments about,
I wanna give it a try. I feel like we just say, we had the AARP monies that came through and, and we made some changes to everybody, hopefully benefited somewhat, but nobody benefited directly. And now we give them 1 cent or 1 penny, that would make them feel better about the whole county. I like the idea, and I'm willing to take the chance, but I will be retired.
That's why
So
you
y'all-
take a chance. You won't be here when we gotta drag it back.
Headline,
But-
Ghost's last action.
the good news is she won't be here, we can blame it all.
With the new industry coming online and we'll land somebody else with the construction we have, we're gonna be in good shape going forward.
Let me ask you a question.
Believe me.
I did have one thought. The president is gonna ask for to cut out the gas tax. Will that affect our sales tax? I know it affect the power bill money in the town of Waverham and all these other towns, but it will not affect our sales tax, right? Okay, good.
Will affect us as citizens.
Personally, negligibly, but it will not impact the county.
Cause they get the power bill money in the cities, right? The municipality get the power
But
bill money.
that's off of state gas tax.
That's
not
all,
federal.
yeah, not federal, that's right.
That's not off the
But
federal.
now, if the governor of North Carolina go on and drop his sales tax, then we'd be in pretty good shape, right?
That would impact cities and that would impact DOT, but that, again, we
DOT's already broke. He
get
can
nothing
stay.
off, we get nothing off of gasoline.
Okay.
He'd bankrupt DOT.
Okay, any other questions or comments about the information presented by Kevin?
And just as a aside for health, for insurance, the vast majority is health insurance, but approximately $4.6 million is in here for insurance.
Well, get back to, whenever you want to get back to the school, I want to ask Kevin a question.
Okay.
Same old thing I did last year, probably. And I'm sorry to ask this question, but Kevin, what do you recommend for the amount of money we provide for the school? How much, what was your formula based on what we did?
My recommendation is no change.
You recommend 10 million?
I recommend 10,300,000.
Okay,
But when I calculated the formula with no change in ADM, the formula came in at $1 million decrease.
okay.
At 9,
Mhm.
came in at 9 million.
Yes.
So I am only gonna vote for 300,000
Well,
capital outlay. That's my line.
as Chairman said earlier, our liaison committee last week, they dug in at 600,000 cap, 10 million and 600,000 cap. We showed them the invoice that we gave for the lease payment this year that was just sent out June the 1st. With that, after the restricted sales tax money and whatnot that was applied, their lease payment was and I'm gonna round it down, $1.5 million $511,000 in lottery proceeds applied to that. $300,000 in the capital expenditure that we applied last year that they had not used was applied for. And $505,000 in the remaining of the bond was that we had left. We were gonna give them credit for that,
We could have kept it.
that we could have kept. So they only had to pay $240,000 of their budgeted $1.5 million for the lease payment this year. So they, in essence, received an extra $505,000 this year, which is going to carry over to next year because it's going to the general fund. But, and we told them that, said, there it is, you know, you're getting $500,000 that you can carry into next year. So with and so we're still willing to say 10 million and 300,000 with the 500, that's $800,000 that you could use in toward capital project.
Do we need to vote on it?
They dug in deeper, still want $600,000.
Do we need to vote on it?
They want an additional
Yeah.
600.
We will,
Additional three.
we
Well,
will,
additional 3. They want 600, they want 10 million and 600,000.
and we have budgeted 10,300,000.
Right.
So if we vote on this budget, we will this board will be approving the 10 million
300.
capital current expense and 300,000 for capital. And Commissioner Gibson, I want to cut you off. One of the things that the other members, the school board members of the liaison committee wanted to bring to this group's attention was they felt like they have done an excellent job in applying for grants, and we have to give them credit. They have done a great job. They've gotten an over $1 million grant for the renovation to the high school auditorium. They've gotten more than $1 million grant for safety, everything in regard to safety for the school system. And hopefully they're going to be doing I think some of this may be the additional push for safety in schools because of the school shootings. And there's a lot of good things that need to take place and good communication that needs to follow that. We reported to y'all at our last meeting, they have given us a list of considerable capital expenses they expect to have to cover in the next 3 or 4 fiscal years. And I think that some of those costs are anywhere in the $2 to $2.5 million a year in capital expenditures. So they're making a case that they have done a good job of finding money, and I think they have. They are saying they've got a lot of capital expenses coming in the future, and that the additional $300,000 they're requesting for is a reasonable ask. I don't think the request is unreasonable because I think they have and will always have money that they need for lots of different things for the benefit of our kids. I think we have to weigh the burden on the taxpayer to come up with the money to pay some of these things. And I believe and have contended for a number of years that we finance our school system in an extraordinary manner. I don't believe anybody can argue that that has not been true and will continue to be true with what we've allocated in this budget.
With us.
And I invite BJ and Tim, if there's things that they wanted to be brought to this table that they wanted us to bring that we haven't brought. I think that Tim's point, and it's one that we made at that meeting, and that is we didn't have to deduct that $500,000 from you, $505,000 from the bill. We could have just hung on to that, given you 10 plus 6, and saved ourselves $200,000. But we chose not to do that because we thought the right thing to do was go ahead and reduce that from the debt payment. But I think that in our mind, or in my mind, I won't speak for these two, in my mind, the $10,300,000 is more than what they originally asked for with what we've already given them. If I may, and BJ, if you want to make any comment or not.
I agree with everything you all said. I mean, we had good dialogue with them. I do want to, because I specifically asked about your request about Shaw and then looking at South
Thank you for doing that.
Scotland. And the follow-up to that is that they didn't feel like that would be in their best. Simply the bathrooms and those type changes that would have to happen from the elementary level to a middle and high school, the cost would just be out of sight.
And no gym.
And no gym being there, and they have a gym at Shaw, so
So Shaw is.
Shaw is gonna remain.
The school of now and the future for Providence, yeah, that's for Providence.
as far
I'm
as
happy
they're
because that's
concerned.
my school.
Yeah.
Okay,
As far as their plans are, they don't have any plans to move it. It's gonna
Okay.
remain there for now. But otherwise, I mean, we laid it all out. I understood very well, and I think they did as well, as Commissioner Gibson said, the needs, and the needs are not gonna go away. But we all kind of left there comfortable with the fact that there is $505,000 that was additional. And then, you know, you add that to the 300 you're getting, that's $800,000 as opposed to 600 that you could get if we would have
yeah,
approved that.
right.
I do think that we're gonna end up having to do some of that back and forth meeting once we approve our budget, but, you know, kind of got to
And
go.
what action do you, in your own mind, anticipate might could happen once we approve our budget today and they realize that it's 10:30?
Well, they talked like that we would end up where we were last year. I don't know how the rest of the board is gonna react with learning about this extra 505,000.
Yeah, I'm not sure how well that's been communicated.
I don't know that it has, but, they pretty dug in about, well, we're not getting $10 million. We're getting $8.5 million because we have to make the lease payment. That,
Okay, there, please.
well, I
Kidding.
went into it again, before I was here, this board was promised that we will realize savings that will pay, the school will pay for itself.
Yes, it
That's what they
Oh,
told
my
us.
God.
And I said, so where is the savings? And the only thing is, those we haven't realized it.
So they really still think
We-
that they're only getting 8.5 because they have a lease payment to make.
But I will say the dialogue was good in that the way that payment is handled is somewhat different than it was before. And Kevin kind of explained that to them and helped them to better understand. They still were stuck on the fact that they're not getting Utah 10, but I think it gave some, or at least for me it did, it gave some clarity as to the misunderstanding as to how that payment applied. And then Kevin can kind of share that if he'd like, but I didn't leave there thinking they were just dumbfounded to the fact of a payment. It was just the way
Okay.
that it hit them this time was different than the way the bonds have happened before.
I think that's a good
I want to make that point.
that's a good explanation.
Yeah, it still nets out to be the same, but I don't think
The process is
I
different.
think they thought it was a different way that it happened.
Okay, three things I want to say. First of all, we have an
Email.
insurance crisis. And as a board, we also have a pay structure. Bad situation. I don't see how the Board of Education can say with a straight face, and if they're listening, I hope they are, they receive these grants, and that's great. But then you are penalizing the board for you receiving them, asking us to give you additional money. That's the way I count money. If they've done a wonderful job with getting grants. Now you want me to give you more because you got the grants. Understand our situation, the agreement we made with the school was on the condition that we wouldn't have to raise taxes to make this mortgage. They would have the savings, energy, $200 and some $1,000. I remember the numbers. That's not a gentleman's agreement, that's a contractual agreement when we did not put on the ballot referendums to get the privilege to raise taxes. Jim, you weren't here. I explained to them, if we put it on the ballot for you to vote, you'll be giving us the privilege to raise your taxes. We had citizens doing that, not the Board of Education. I explained that to them, being led by Matthew Block. You don't wanna do that. We can build a school within our means, that's taxes that's already been approved. Okay, the tax rate, et cetera, and the income. Now, and many of the people still on the board, they don't understand that. So the difference here about $1 million some dollars, they're asking us for us to now go back. We have to raise taxes eventually to give them relief on the school. DJ, do they not understand that? For us to do this, what they are asking, that we will eventually have to go back and raise taxes. I said then it would be 3 cents. Do they understand that? That's what they're asking us to do. Not this year, but we don't have this extra money going forward. They promised us we'll have the savings if y'all would build the school. This is all it will cost you. And now they're saying differently. They won't.
They are saying that there has been some savings. They're also saying that there hope to be future savings. They have not had the attrition that they expect to have. And you're right, there was money that was gonna be saved through utilities, money through maybe gas, some.
There will be less staff needed.
That was the main thing. The biggest savings was gonna be in staff, and that just has not yet occurred. And they're gonna have to deal with why that has or has not.
And we're not a gold guinea. You kick us, when it'll come out.
How many students they have now?
I don't remember what that number was. They told us in that one meeting.
Yeah, how many, I just wonder how many they lose since last year. I know they lost a number of students. What's the ADM?
I think it's 53 something, isn't it?
They've generally been losing around 1%, around
It's like
50.
50, 75 a year.
Okay.
Although I'm thinking that has slowed. I was thinking.
Because they're anticipating an increase.
Yeah, I don't know whether they had it this year or anticipating next year. John, I'm sorry.
I'm finished.
Okay. In regard to the 10 million and the 300,000, is there any other comment that any commissioner wishes to make?
Yes, I don't want the school board to be down on me. Capital outlay, if something come up and it has to be done and they don't have the funds, they know it's our responsibility. I just don't want to front the money and they have carryover.
Okay. Maybe rather that we can approve the budget and that will approve the 10-3. Maybe is it appropriate that we take a vote on the 10-3 at this point, just to make that clear?
It's not necessary.
I don't think it's necessary.
It's not necessary.
Okay. Well, I just didn't know whether we were ready to move on to making a vote.
I don't think we should pull it out as a,
I think we ever have we?
If they're listening, I think it's made clear. I don't know that they are or not, but if they're listening, it's making, if they're not, Kevin knows how to make sure that Dr. Green knows.
Oh, they're listening.
Well, I'm sure they're listening, and I hope that all of the board members will be communicated to all of their board members, the element of that $505,000 reduction from the bill that they received from the county.
Because I don't think when we met with liaison, they even knew, those board members, did they? I think
They had not seen it,
They had
because we
seen-
made copies of it, Jason
Yeah,
made
they didn't
copies
know
of
it,
it.
so hopefully they have since.
Did we finish with the Scotland County pre-clearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
We did not take any action because we don't know how much of the $150,000 that we've allocated to them, they've actually earned.
Yeah, okay.
has it been appropriated to them?
Yes.
Okay.
That was done on
Well, I
November 1st.
distinguish between allocation and upfront.
That's
Okay, Kevin, do you have any other information you want to provide us in regard to the budget?
Is your head spinning?
Go back to the total. Whoever makes this motion's got to have that total, right?
I was gonna say, with that, you can make the motion to approve the budget ordinance. Yeah, because it's at $50,631,037 for the general fund, but it would also be all the additional.
So I'll make a motion to approve the 2022-2023 budget ordinance for $50,631.37 with the tax rate of 99 cents.
Second.
Well, I think it's $50,631,037, not 37 cents.
That's what I said, wasn't it? Or I said 37 cents.
You did.
As amended by
as it-
Chairman Gibbs.
I know
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Just as, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I think the discussion should include that this is a 99 cent
I
tax
did.
rate.
Yeah.
Did you say that?
That was part of the motion.
Yeah, that was part of the
Okay,
motion.
good, I'm sorry. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Thank you, sir.
And whether you know it or not, if there were any mistakes, this was the wrong time to do it because the director for the assistant secretary of the state of North Carolina was on the phone for this with her attorney and other members of the office. But the LGC is here to help with any discussions on East Laurinburg.
Somebody find time
They
to
can't
tell
see-
us that we're here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
They can't
I might
see me
have,
anyway, so.
behaved in a more, professional way.
Sure, yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you, Kevin, for that introduction.
Good morning, Ms. Evanson. We're glad to have you all with us. If you would like to introduce the other members on your side of the call.
I'd be happy to. I have with me this morning our Director of Operations, Debbie Tomasco, and Cindy Aiken, Assistant General Counsel to the department, and she is assigned to State and Local Government Finance Division. So the three of us have had a number of conversations, I think, back and forth with each other, and Cindy particularly with Attorney Johnston, and myself with Kevin over the last several months, trying to get everything lined up for the East Laurinburg dissolution at June 30th.
Okay, and I apologize for interrupting you, but give me just a second. Well, he's just come back into the room. I didn't want to start without Mr. Johnston being present. Thank you. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
So, Mr. Johnson, I was just telling everybody how much effort has gone into this, not only on your side of the table, but ours as well. And thank you very much to Kevin and Mr. Johnson for all the hard work. A lot of it seemingly at the last minute, but unfortunately, that's just kind of the way some of this had to be, just due to the timing of the process. So we really appreciate everything y'all have done.
Kudos to Ms. Aiken, your attorney, who spent many, many hours working on this, I'm certain. Can she hear me?
She should be able to.
Yeah. And with this.
So are there any questions that we can answer?
I think Mr. Patterson is going to make a comment, and then we'll get the conversation moving.
With this, and of course, there are going to be questions about some of the details in this, because this is a situation, my understanding, this is the first time in North Carolina history that a municipality has been dissolved by the local government commission. And with this, there is a resolution attached in the agenda. It goes through, and it is the companion to the resolution passed by the local government commission. I believe they had a meeting on June 7th with this. This outlines the responsibilities for Scotland County in what we are agreeing to do. With this, with Scotland County will become on July 1, we will take ownership of property currently owned by the town of East Laurinburg. After the LGC is already in control of their financial situation, after a closeout period by probably October 1, East Laurinburg, the LGC will transfer the funds to Scotland County. With that, Scotland County will take on the street lights that are being currently paid for by East Laurinburg, and we will use the funds made available from East Laurinburg to pay that for at minimum 1 year. So with that going on, we will also take ownerships of 4 pieces of real property, as well as the personal property currently owned by East Laurinburg. The real property does include the current town hall. There is some various personal property inside the building, inside of town hall. By the end of the month, we expect to be meeting with LGC staff. As they come down, they will take any financial records, if anything of permanent value that needs to be claimed. So they will take that. So they will maintain those financial records in their office until the rates can be until they can legally be disposed of. There will still be some personal property. One thing that we discussed is after the county takes ownership of that property, any of the personal property that cannot be used for county purposes would probably recommend that the Board of Commissioners surplus that property and make it known that we'll open the building at a certain time. So anybody who has loaned property to the town of East Laurinburg, they can come and collect that property. We are not going to be overly particular on making sure that they have the receipt from if they own the 2 various plates. A list of the property is included there. It is not property of significant monetary value.
It's the price, the list is attached,
Yeah.
right?
Kevin, have you been in the building?
Not recently.
Okay. Not since all this started?
No, I will probably meet LGC staff there this week or next week.
I have like 3 questions. First one is in the resolution under the let it be resolved part number 6. It talks about the funds being held in account separate, the county holds, they get that. But then it goes into to set aside an amount equal to 3 years of payroll taxes, both employee and employee share based on the salary, wages, and taxes paid in fiscal 21-22. Why would we do that? Why would we have to do that? Number one, how many employees are in the city of East Laurinburg? I understand it was only like 1.
1 or 2 part-timers.
But why would we have to hold in reserve or make a reserve? Because
I think it's unclear whether those have been properly filed, so that this would be reserved in case they've not been properly done, whatever amount that would be. I'm not sure they anticipate it being a huge amount, but
well, my understanding won't lose money anyway, so.
that was $35,000,
Oh, are they? Okay.
roughly. I mean, that's,
Do we know how much the amount of funds would be necessary to do that?
to reserve the cushion?
Mhm.
No, I don't think they have that number yet, but it certainly would be less than that.
And that would be part of it is when the LGC staff comes down, they will do a more in-depth detail searching for any other records that they have not been able to find, including any 941 or 940, your 941s, finding out to determine if those tax payments have been made to the IRS.
I'm assuming we're gonna keep the street lights up no matter what. We've already agreed to that, right?
That's in this resolution.
Yeah,
At least a year.
at least a year.
I think the cost on that is 6,400, isn't it, Kevin, or wasn't it? Am I thinking of a different number?
I think
I
that's
think
about
somebody
right.
told me.
Annually?
Annual.
I know we're not gonna need to maintain the clerk there, if there is a clerk. But the person that kind of maintains the stuff, are we gonna keep them involved, part-time person, for 6 months or so until we get a grasp of where everything is and
No.
put them on a special payroll or something?
Who is that you're referring to?
I don't know who it is.
We may not need to do that.
Or
I
we
think
just
the
gonna,
records, and Kevin may have mentioned this, but I think the LGC is gonna retain the, records and be the custodian for public record purposes.
yeah, I know the clerk. I'm talking about the guy, isn't there a guy that works outside? that does
He goes
the-
out and he collects the garbage and things like that, but
Yeah,
there's
but-
been no discussion about hiring him.
But I mean, so we're just gonna, I mean, that wouldn't be somebody we could absorb into Mike's department to,
He may be somebody who could apply for a position.
I mean, I think we ought to offer it at least and say,
You've not been obligated to do that. Now, you may choose to do it.
that's why I'm not saying we obligate ourselves
No,
to
I'm
it. but-
saying we didn't obligate you to do
No, I'm just saying, but that might be an option because he's
That way you
already
still have that
familiar,
person.
he's already familiar with everything and
And he's cutting the grass around the building and all that
all
kind
that
of thing,
stuff
right?
now,
And who's paying?
and City of East Lawrence is paying him right now.
Someone contacted me yesterday, a gentleman from East Lawrenceburg, and I didn't recall, if anything, Kevin, what are we doing about the trash?
That was my next question.
Currently, their trash is being handled with a contract with, Waste Management, I believe. And,
It's waste management.
yeah.
Yep.
That's being billed through, the city of Laurinburg and their utility bills. And then Laurinburg was paying that back through East Laurinburg to go to Waste Management.
And how long is that gonna continue,
Uh,
if you know?
I think it was the end of this month. wasn't it?
yes,
And that is because the city of Laurinburg,
That was the question they were asking me, what are they gonna do? What are we gonna do?
Well, there's somebody going through East Laurinburg yesterday and Joe's Trash Service, I don't know who it was, and was handing flyers out to everybody for trash pickup, just to start for like $20 a month or something like that, so.
And my question is, are we gonna do anything? That's what they wanna know, right?
there's nothing in this resolution requiring that. And since that is not a service that we provide in the rest of the county.
I guess I'm thinking in terms of, a trash site like we have on Wakeham Road, Long Hill, up at Sneed Road. I think, did we not talk about, is there any location we could put something like that for them?
in that community. You're saying put a site like that in that community
Not
or somewhere close by.
somewhere where they can take that, other than, it's not much different though in East Laurinburg going to Wakeham than it is for where I live going, just.
Well, they're a ride from any site there. They either got the landfill or
The landfill's
or south of Sneed Grove. I mean, yeah, they're a ride from where they are
To any of them.
Yeah.
to any of them.
Mr. Johnson. I would just say, this issue you're discussing right now is illustrative of the types of things that the board will be dealing with, either directly or through Mr. Patterson or someone else. In every conversation I've had with the LGC, and I think Kevin probably too, it's been clear that this board is the entity that makes the decision about whether to move forward. Now, you do have the legal authority to move forward if you choose to be a partner, which is what the statute refers to if you choose to go for it. What you'd be voting on today is whether to accept the partnership, and then all these other issues will become issues that the county in some fashion will deal with from that point forward. You have not agreed yet to be a partner. If you choose to do that, then that is one of the issues among others that you'll be dealing with.
So what if we don't?
Well, the LGC is currently performing the function that you would take on.
Ms. Edmondson, I'm assuming you're hearing all of this. The question is, what happens if Scotland County votes not to enter into this partnership?
Then we pretty much have to start over and finding somebody to take the town property. I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing folks that are not close to the mic, but I know there was a question about why we're setting up the reserves the way we are. And I can address that. The IRS, as most of you probably have heard, is years behind in process and paperwork. And we just want to make sure that if there are already notices forthcoming, that we just haven't received yet, that the money is there to take care of that. Once the time period passes that the IRS can no longer issue a notice, the money would revert to the unrestricted funds. And so it really is just, again, something to protect the county in case there is an IRS notice that is a valid claim against the payroll. There are currently 3 part-time employees of the town. 2 of them are public works, mowing the grass and that kind of thing, and then 1 bookkeeper.
And one thing.
They have no benefits or anything like that. They just get paid, just a regular paycheck.
If the county does not accept this, and then ultimately a nonprofit is established to accept the property, you are still going to have citizens coming to the board with the exact same questions, wanting to know what help you're going to provide. Because they're currently East Laurinburg has been as a contract middle agent in the trash service. But the simple answer is for the citizens to continue with a private contract.
And I'm not even sure what that would look like, to be honest with you.
It's maybe a dumb question, but has there been any follow-up conversation with the city of Laurinburg about them being involved in this?
Yes, we've reached out to the city several times. Initially, just as a general question as to what they would be willing to do. And then more specifically as time went on about the trash service. And they, of course, do provide water sewer to folks in East Laurinburg, but they were not interested in picking them up as solid waste clients or anything else.
Okay.
We did inform the residents by letter in East Laurinburg that they would be responsible for their own trash service as of the end of the month.
Do you, Ms. Edmiston, do you and Mr. Patterson, has anyone contacted Waste Management to see if they were interested in continuing their contract?
I have not.
We discussed that with them and they are not.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. It's not the answer I wanted, but thank you, ma'am.
It wasn't the one we wanted either.
I'm sure. Ms. Edmiston, I'm just speaking as Whit Gibson, a member of the board. I feel some moral obligation to accept this partnership because I think these folks have done nothing to create the situation they find themselves in. But what benefit is there to the county to enter into this partnership?
it's,
think if you look at it from the perspective, and I don't even pretend to be in your shoes at this point, that working with other municipalities and counties, when we've had counties take over municipal services, not certainly everything that we're doing here, but the county's perspective has always been, these are residents of our county. And we're going to step in and see what we can do to help them out. East Laurinburg doesn't provide really much of anything in the way of services other than the contract to pick up trash. Had they provided critical services like water, sewer, or public safety, this would have been a very different conversation. And it would have been a much longer process. But again, I just think that the perspective that they are residents of Scotland County.
Well, and that's not an insignificant
And-
reference.
How many individuals, I know.
No, it's not. And come July 1st, of course, they won't be residents of an incorporated municipality any longer. So the county will be the only local government that they participate in.
They'll just be like the residents of Laurel Hill,
They're like, right.
or just like, I use mine as an example, just like me.
And me,
and the
You can't say any
funds,
Calvin.
a lot
and
of
the
others.
funds that the town of East Laurinburg have been accumulated will pay for, the street lights that started off under Waverly Mills and will continue. And there will still be stewardship of, like the town hall, which is your primary real estate. And, figuring out an appropriate use for that building.
Well, a question about that building, and I guess maybe Sharon can answer that, or Mr. Johnson. Would we be limited on what we could do with that building? Because I've already been called, two different nonprofits wanting to possibly get ownership of that building for use, and then we even discussed it about a homeless day center. Would we be limited on what or when we could do anything with that building for something like that?
I'll defer to the county attorney to more fully answer that question, but there's no restrictions coming from us.
Okay.
With the transfer of property. As of July 1st, it would just belong to the county. If we could hold that thought just a minute, I wanted to make sure you all knew that Treasurer Falwell's on the call, and he would like just a minute to speak with the board.
Hey, Board, Chair Gibson and Vice Chair Alford, can you hear me okay?
We can.
This is State Treasurer Falwell. I just wanted to pop in here and to tell you how incredibly appreciative I am as the State Treasurer on behalf of all the citizens of East Laurinburg and Scotland County and the employees at the Treasurer's Office in our partnership. And I think that what we have been able to accomplish over the last few months regarding the dissolving of East Laurinburg is an example of we're not too far out over our skis, and you're not too far out over your skis. I'm sure there's a lot of questions that have been answered, and there may be a couple of questions nobody's even asked yet, but I just want to let you know how valuable it is to go forward with this process. All of us wish we weren't here at this place in time, but we are. And as Governor Martin continues to say, doing right's rarely wrong. And we're doing the right thing here. So I just wanted to personally come on this call and thank you. And we know we have attorneys on the call, and there's a lot of documents, a lot of things going back and forth. But I'll tell you, and I want to give this my word personally, that what we say is as important as what we sign our name to. and that's how we roll here. And we're thankful for our partnership. And I got a call, a few months ago from somebody from that community and about about the East Laurinburg community. And I said, have you been to any of our cities in Currituck County? And they said, oh yeah, I've been to Currituck, I've been to Moyock, I've been to a lot of those cities. And I said, there are no cities in Currituck County. And I was trying to communicate to them that just because you're not incorporated does not mean you lose your sense of community. And we hope that people will continue to call themselves East Laurinburg for as long as they feel like that's appropriate. But in closing, just want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, and members of your board and all your staff for helping us figure out what's right, helping us get it right, and helping us keep it right. And I just want to tell you, I'll never forget it. And I think Edwin Gill, who was from Laurinburg, would be very proud of all of us today.
No, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. We appreciate you being on the line with us and appreciate your comments very much. We are trying to determine what's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But we appreciate your comments.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And with this is ultimately coming because for the last number of years, the nicest way of putting it is East Laurinburg has not been serving its citizens.
Mr. Johnson, anything else you wish to say?
No, other than you clearly have the legal authority, if you choose to exercise it, to be a partner on this matter. I think that we have done all we could, and I think the LGC particularly done all it could to do the due diligence to determine whether there are any landmines out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how much due diligence you do, there may be a landmine or two that no one's discovered. So we've tried to limit the county's liability as best we could in the resolution to no further than the funds that are received, and you'll see the language in there to that effect. So we've done all we could on that point, but it's impossible to anticipate everything that may come up.
Have those employees been notified? Sharon, do you know if those employees have been notified officially that their last day of employment, or?
Yes.
They have been?
Yes, they have been notified when their last day of employment is. We plan on taking care of their last paycheck ahead of June 30th so that all of that can be taken care of and closed out. We're trying to have as little left over after June 30th as possible. And Kevin, I did want to make clear one thing. We plan on turning over a good part of the funds that are left over before we actually close out the bank account. We're leaving the bank account open primarily to receive the sales tax distributions in July and August and September.
Right.
But we're going to do our very best to make sure we pay everything that's owed by June the 30th. And so there'll be very little activity after that.
Okay. Sharon, is there has anybody, I don't think the county has, we've not had any conversation with any group of residents from East Laurinburg to find out what they want. Has the LGC had any conversation with any groups from the town of East Laurinburg in regard to that?
We've had representatives at almost every board meeting since the December board meeting, and we've not had any residents contact us or come to the board meeting or participate in the board meeting to ask questions.
Kevin, have we received, do the citizens of East Laurinburg want us to join this partnership, or do we even know that?
I've not received any. The only person, well, Actually, there is nobody who has asked me about this that is either not in this room or on this call.
Have any of y'all had any contact with any resident of East Lawrenceburg?
I've had contact by someone who represents the church in East Lawrenceburg about use of the property. They just came in and basically said, if the county moves forward with this, there's a certain project they'd like to.
That's what people wanting to use or obtain ownership of that city or that town hall. A couple groups wanting that, you know, but other than that, I haven't heard from anybody saying anything.
Well, one of the considerations I would think we would make if we do take ownership is we've spent some time and money the last several years building community centers in some of our other areas. Why would we not maybe leave that building for the people of East Laurinburg as a gathering place for them, if we want them to still be part of the community?
Well, that was what one of those groups wanted.
That's a great
is They were
idea.
gonna operate it as a community
I
center.
think there's actually some language in one of the deeds that suggests, if not requires, that it be used in that fashion.
That's what
For-
one of the groups.
Not a
wanted to do.
specific use, but for the good of the community.
I think that's on the unimproved lots beside the town hall. But at some point in time, the board could go off and a simple action of turning that over to Parks and Recreation and yapping it for a community building.
Do we know the viability of the building at all?
We would go off and go have, building inspections and
We haven't
public
done any of
buildings
that.
go through.
We haven't had, it's not our building, so we. I
Last time I was in there, decent shape.
think it's in
I was
decent
in there
shape, too. I've gone by.
several years ago, and it was a decent building.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The roof's in good shape.
Okay,
My only comment is, I know the trash issue is not a mandate. And I know that for people like all of us who don't live in the city limits, we have to take care of our own trash. But I think Commissioner McCall made a great point at our last meeting. I moved to my neighborhood knowing I had to take care of my trash. These people have not had to take care of that for a long time.
But they paid it.
But they paid it. And although Waste Management nor the city are willing to keep that service going, I know where I live, Joe's is the other option for us. I just really think it would be beneficial for the beautification of the county if we try to find a way to keep that going, even with another company. Because if not,
Yeah.
trash is going to be a major, I mean, they're paying it. We just gotta work out the details of doing it, I guess, with another company. I think.
I know several people said yesterday that Joe's went through East Laurinburg handing out flyers to pick up trash.
Is it really $20 a month?
That's what they said.
We need that, don't we?
But,
I've changed.
Sound like I was in waiting.
but I mean, I don't know.
But it's just, I think it's something that we really need to look into doing, just because if we don't handle it now. it's
And
gonna
if
be a
we
big
can't
issue.
work that out, find something in that area to build, even if it's a mini trash site.
That's right.
Not even as big as something.
well, the question before this board is, do we enter
We
into
gotta
this
do
partnership?
this first.
We can't do any of that until we make a decision on this.
Well, while we're on trash, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I went to, outside in Wagram, and, I was supervisor, whatever was there. And, he said I had too much wood on the truck to put it in there. And my question was, to dump there, I had to take it to the landfill. He said I could put a few pieces. And my question is, do we have a rule or policy, a small dump, a small pickup truck, if you have a few boards?
Mr. Alford, if you don't mind, I apologize for interrupting you. But we've got an
Okay.
issue that I'd like for us to resolve. We
Okay,
have three
and then
people
I'll
hanging
get to
on
that.
from somewhere else. We can come back to that.
Okay, good.
Is there anybody wishing to make the motion that we move forward with this
I'll
action?
make a motion. I second that motion.
Well, I hadn't made it yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said I'll make that, okay.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure what the wording should be,
A
but I
motion
do
that we do
move that
what now?
Scotland County accept
Adopt the
Adopt the
resolution.
resolution.
Adopt the resolution, thank you. That Scotland County adopt the resolution, in reference to the town of East Laurinburg.
We have a motion.
Betty, you said.
Eddie, do you get a second from Commissioner Goldston? Any other conversation? You have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Ms. Edmiston, I think the board has accepted the resolution, approved the resolution, and it looks like we are engaging in a partnership for the benefit of East Laurinburg.
Well, I thank you all very much. We will continue to work with Kevin and the rest of the staff and the attorney, if necessary, to iron out any remaining hiccups in the process. Kevin, we plan to be on site there by around, I believe 11:30 or noon on Tuesday. And I'll talk to you more about that later on. Again, thank you all so much. We really appreciate this. We're all making history here. Not sure that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we'll see. But thank you very much.
Thank you for the continued involvement of the LGC, and please forward our appreciation to Treasurer Falwell.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for all of you for being on the line, and y'all have a great day.
Y'all do the same.
Staying on this subject I think that what I think she said, I believe Sharon said that Waste Management was not inclined to renew that contract.
Yes.
Kevin, do you have a thought as to how we would proceed from here as far as people in East Laurinburg and trash?
The cleanest things are, of course, if they have individual contracts with that. But if the board is interested, what we could do is we can go out for bid we could draw an area and go out for bid on the contracts. With that, we would have to then turn around and reassess and assess the people of East Laurinburg that fee. And figure out exactly how to proceed with that. If you do that at that point in time, if Joe's trash service comes up and says, we'll do that for $20, at that point in time, everybody who's using Waste Management for $40, well, I want that service and I want the county to pay for it too. It's going to wind up being the conversation about what we wind up doing countywide.
They didn't say anything about water, it said sewage, you know, water and sewage, right?
No, just garbage.
That's
Water and
trash,
sewer,
I mean.
yeah, water and sewer are already paid for, are already provided by the city of Laurinburg.
And that's gonna continue.
Yes.
So this is as of today. Just
Read something.
Waste Management today, you have to pay 3 months in advance, no setup fee, $145 for 3 months they need to pick up in East Laurinburg. Joe's will do it for $20 a month, and Joe's will be back there by Friday traveling around to see anybody that wants to sign up. So they're both over there saying they'll do it. So, but
Well, what is it?
I mean, if they're doing it, I think we stay out of it.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying, that's why I was asking that question. Now, Commissioner Gibson being sensitive, saying that now the individuals, they gonna get their garbage picked up. But what about the ones that will not pay for that service and the trash is out there on the street? I think
Well,
that's.
they're paying for it now.
Yeah, so I guess you just leave it as is. The understanding I had was Waste Management was not
Yeah, but
willing, but if they're still willing, I said, leave them alone, The ones who want to get it, the ones who
Yeah.
don't.
Let's don't do anything like that yet. Let's see how
I'm
that
okay.
goes.
I
But the
just
ones
thought they
who
would.
don't, gonna dump it on the street, so I'm saying.
But they gonna do
But
that
they're doing that
anyway.
now.
They doing that now.
I mean,
I know they are, I know.
but in essence, if they're not with Waste Management now, it's still an option. It's an option now, correct? So those who are with Waste Management are paying it. Those who are not
With it, but-
are either taking it themselves or doing something else. And it'd be the same
$40
as
a month.
Rule 4. It's a lot.
It's
That's a
a
lot of
Waste
money.
Management's expensive.
How much?
40 a month?
It's
More than that.
It's more than that, it's 145 for 3 months.
Yeah.
And they don't pick up everything, see, that's the issue we have.
All of them don't.
All right, okay, so we're gonna let those two companies negotiate with the individual families in East Lawrenceburg and go from there.
Yeah,
I do think we need to think about putting some kind of trash receptacle out there though.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's.
I think we need to,
A miniature site,
Yeah,
a
just-
Yeah.
miniature.
But easy.
yeah, I would do that as quickly as we
Somewhere.
can find a location to do it.
Gotta have some.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Just,
Also give them the information about the convenience sites. They don't have any reason to know where they are. They haven't had to use them.
And
That's-
yeah, I was gonna say, we got 3 vacant lots out there. I don't know where they are, but I guess they're.
there's one that will need to be cleaned up. And I can get our public works guy out there Tuesday and have him look and see if this is a site.
What is,
It may or may not be big enough for a convenience site, but
Might be big enough for a dumpster, though,
Yeah.
a couple of them.
now, and if you do that, it's the old green box
Yeah.
sites.
Is
That's
there,
better than nothing.
is there something wrong with that?
It's just a dumpster. It's out of the way, but it's just a big dumpster.
Better
it can't be picked
Be
up
better
like
than
the others.
nothing.
up
They'll put everything in it, it won't
Be better than nothing for now.
yeah.
I think you're gonna have a mess if you do that.
Well,
I can
you're
see that
gonna have
dumpster.
other people not from East Lawrenceburg filling it up too, so.
I can too. I just think,
They said outside the
Well,
dumpster.
let's, y'all think about
let's
what the best
table
plan
that. I
is.
move that we table the
And make-
discussion on what we do about trash pickup in East
Or
Lawrenceburg.
just look at the sites and see what's around,
Yeah.
see what can be done first.
And
Let's let our manager look into that, and if he thinks it's appropriate, he can move forward with some
Yeah,
action.
but I
And
think
the
for now. we
$20 a
table that
month,
discussion.
Joe's is probably cheaper than what they're paying now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Or at least get some.
yeah, John, and I'm not ignoring you, we'll come back to that topic.
No, it's not important what I was.
Well, it's important, it's just, let's, we've got, a closed session. What else do we have to do here?
We're going to recess and go to Johnson at 1 o'clock.
Gibson.
I'm not able to go, no reflection on.
Oh, yeah. Also, the town of Gibson, has, made a request to have a joint meeting or invited you to their meeting. Because
What day?
if.
Thursday at 6 o'clock.
this Thursday.
This Thursday?
It's Thursday.
Like the 23rd?
This, Wadham is having, its going away party dinner for the clerk. And has, and as RSVP, so I'm hoping that at least one person from the county will go to her.
Who is
that?
going away?
Phyllis,
Phyllis.
dinner is at 6 o'clock Thursday. And I definitely plan to go because I helped plan it.
6 o'clock.
Where at?
Wadham Community Center.
So you say the meeting is, the commission meeting is.
You're being invited to two things, Mr. Ivy, you're being invited away from two.
Where's the Gibson?
At the depot in Gibson.
Well, you talk to Wago and get, okay, I'm just.
I'm gonna be out of town, I won't be at either one.
Okay,
I'll be out of town as well, but please give Phyllis my regards.
okay.
And whoever goes to Gibson, we on board.
I can do Gibson.
And Gibson meeting is what time?
6 at the depot.
Where at the depot?
Yes, yes.
Well, I can go to that.
I can't
I
go
can
to
do
that.
You're gonna go to Wakeman for us, right?
I'm gonna go to Wadham, and I was hoping that one person from the county.
No,
Kevin, what you gonna do? I'm sorry.
Now,
I'm going where y'all tell me to go.
Gibson has requested the commissioners and county manager to attend their meeting.
Well, they short, as the
And I
inmates
think
say,
is it
they're
possible-
short this time.
What do they
So
want?
when do they meet again?
I don't know what they want. All they have said is they'd like to have a meeting with y'all.
Jason, when do they meet? They meet monthly?
I was gonna say Sandy probably knows better than I do.
Well, we need to
Why
have
don't we suggest to them that this is short notice for us? We have another issue that some of us are going to attend and some of us are going to be out of town. Would it be appropriate for them if we came on the, whatever you said?
When their regular meeting?
I talked to a couple of commissioners, they want to talk about the facility we had discussed, whether or not they can do it, or we gonna give them some money.
Well, I don't think that's a conversation that we have to have this Thursday. We can have that in a month from now.
Also some legal aspects of parking and controlling noise and that sort of thing. Who has jurisdiction, what can be done, how much control does the town have, that kind of issue.
Well, I'd like to know what those questions are before we show up.
So we're not doing Gibson.
Not gonna do Gibson.
Well, that's my suggestion, Jason, or whoever they made this request to, that we tell them that we would have very poor attendance and that's not what we want to do.
Okay.
We would rather come on that. And I'm
July
sorry, Sandy, you
14th.
said it's the 3rd or 4th.
July 14th is the next, but I can ask them, when is their next regular meeting?
I think it's the second Thursday, 6 o'clock each second Thursday.
Okay, sounds like
calendar.
Okay. All right, we have a closed session. Can I suggest that we take a little bit of a break and eat and have the closed session take place while we are also eating?
Yes.
Is that-
Well, can we get comments now?
I was gonna say, it'd be cleaner if y'all did comments, and I'll turn off the.
And we'll be done.
And we'll be done.
Okay, all right, comments from commissioners.
Okay, I will say, I wish that Susan was in here now, but we have to, look at the, makeup of our county, the number of whatever races, groups that we have. But right now, the county, as far as I know, do not have a minority, no, I'm gonna say minority, I'm gonna say black person in a supervisory director position. After the health director left, do we have anybody? Maybe we do, and I don't know about it.
you do it DSS. You go.
Not the director.
Not the
Not the
director,
director.
I'm talking about that level,
The
highest level, yeah. So I wish that, I know that, I feel like, our HR department would do their very best. It's easy to sit and say things and as to finding ways to do these things. I understand that. But I just want to bring that up. It'd be nice if we could, if in the event that some other director of some of the departments leave, we can look at that aspect.
And that's one thing about it. We've gone off and we've changed how we try to recruit, to go off and on all the levels, but especially on our higher level positions, our more public facing positions. We've been trying to reach out to, different means of in the community, also in a regional approach to hire people. We've even started in the last a little over a year. If it is, we reach out to the historically black universities, the HBUs, for in their career fairs and their career centers. So we are doing what we can to increase recruitment. So
Okay.
that is an objective to increase recruitment.
Okay, well, thank you. That's all I just wanted to mention.
One of the things I will point out as well is that with NeoGov, that we are tied into Indeed, government jobs. There was one more, also diversity, jobs.org, and we have committed to the next, all of the department director positions will be advertised through that as well. So we are looking for resources to advertise.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm certain I didn't put it in a right way, but anyway, thank you.
I want to go back to something that came up in our last, in July, or June board meeting, and that was the knowledge that we learned about the inmate at the jail that is not well, and it's a very expensive medical bill. That doesn't come out of the sheriff's budget, does it?
Yes.
Oh, it does come out of the sheriff,
Yes.
okay. Regardless of that, and I know I asked and Sheriff Kersey responded that they had had some success in getting the inmate moved, but he came back. I think we need to, that's an expensive situation that's going on in our detention center. And I would hate to think that it would continue for another 6 months, 9 months, or a year. We don't have any control over that. I mean, we could be headed towards $1 million bill on health care if 1 month was 300,000. I don't know.
That's not 1 month. That was a year.
Oh, okay. Well, I still think it's of concern. I'm wondering if it would be appropriate for our attorney to reach out to DA Saunders and see if there's anything that can be done through the courts to move this case up and get it adjudicated to some degree, whether he goes home or he goes to another level of incarceration. Is that an appropriate thing for
The sheriff
you to
has.
do, Ed, on the direction of the board?
The sheriff has. And
thought
and
we
the problem
always did
is,
that.
is you can't just send him home. He's up for murder.
Well, I didn't know those details, but I
Yeah.
wanted Ed to respond.
Well, I would be happy to talk with Reese if it's the board's desire to do it. I think that there may be some constraints he's under if that's the kind of charge that he had. And it's sort of a fine line too about if you start down that path, where do you stop?
Okay, I just wanted to have a conversation about it. I've already learned a couple things that I wasn't clear on about
First degree.
the charge, and that the 300,000 was for a year
Yes.
and not for a month. That's what got me kind of rolling with this. I mean, you could hit $1 million quickly at that rate.
I think that the judicial officials, including the judges, to some extent, are aware of medical issues as being something to consider, and I guess ultimately the judges would be the ones that would have to move an inmate. I guess they would move for safekeeping or some other reason that I think you said they
Safekeeping.
came back. So I don't know that the district attorney has unfettered the ability to do it, although he would certainly come into the process for sure. Likely it would be Judge Futrell's ultimate decision about it.
I just wanted I wanted to address one more time because it is a situation that's ongoing.
I thought that we kind of had agreement, or not agreement, but understanding that when these cases come up, that we will have whatever power that we go to the judge and kind of communicate with the judge about that situation. I just thought that's what we usually did. I thought we did it before, didn't we?
The sheriff, when these cases comes up, the sheriff does have communication with the district attorneys, with the magistrates. But there's an ethical limit on how much they can talk to the judge or someone about
And the
it.
defense attorney has a right to be involved with it as well.
Right.
I mean, it certainly changes the ability of the counsel for the defendant to have access to the client.
Well, that's true too.
So it's really kind of a multi-layered.
It's all kind of problems with
Yeah,
this.
I'm sure
They can't let him go.
I
mean,
understand.
And even if they could let him go, he's nowhere to go because
Of the illness,
the
and you're right, he doesn't have
murder
access to
involves a
counsel.
family member. So,
Well, you gotta
you
have
know,
court, you gotta
it
go
just
to
goes
court,
on.
that court thing, you gotta go to court, and that's in on the century prison or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
I know they are starting a murder trial on Monday, so I don't know whether he's the defendant or not.
He is not. I don't think
He's not.
Well, I said my piece, I've gotten my information, and we can move on.
Anything else?
Mm-mm.
Commissioner Gibson? No. The only comment I do want to make is We talked about the appointments, and Mr. Hall has requested time to come back next time and ready. I would suggest that if there's any members of this board of commissioners that wishes to just have conversation with John in regard to the appointments, let's try to have that between now and July 11th. So maybe John can come to us.
Because I have several for, it's on the board, just two positions, and I want to get it right, and so I have a lot of interest there.
Okay. Well, I know there's some information that might be worthwhile as to people's attendance
Yeah.
on boards as well as these and others they may or may not have been appointed to. So, and I think you might want to gather some of that information before you make a recommendation.
Okay, I will.
And I know there's some folks who've gotten calls from some of these folks. I have not, but if you have some information you want to report, that would be good. John, do you have anything you want to say?
No, I'm good.
Okay. What I'd like to do is, we will go into closed session, but before we go into closed session, we're gonna take about a 5 or 10 minute break to get yourself something to eat. We will eat during the closed session. Okay. What do we need? The motion?
You need to go ahead and motion to go into closed session so I can turn off the.
Okay. Is there a motion to go into closed session pursuant to those, pursuant to General Statute 143-318 to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or businesses in the area served by this public body, including agreement on a tentative list of economic development incentives that may be offered by the public body in negotiations, or discuss matters relating to military installation, closing, or realignment. Is there a motion to that effect?
Yes.
Mr. Alford, is there a second by Mr. Ivy? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are in closed session.
Before everybody gets involved,
Let's get
this machine has been turned off. I'd like to have everybody's attention for just 30 seconds.
Are we all, Jason?